Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening and welcome to Golden Frequency Radio. Today is Wednesday, October 19th, 2016. I am Beth Ann Carr, intuitive quantum energy healer and your host, here with my friend and co-host Eric Rains. Hi, Eric.
Hello.
Eric is the alchemical engineer behind UnleashingNaturalHumanity.com and the etheric parasite and implant removal protocol that we both utilize in sessions with our clients. More information about this work can be found at UnleashingNaturalHumanity.com, as well as the Facebook page Unleashing Natural Humanity. We also have a YouTube channel, Golden Frequency Radio, where you can listen to recordings of our previous shows. We will be taking calls during the show tonight. For those of you who would like to join the discussion, please call 619-924-9805 and press 1 to let me know that you would like to speak on air with us. Or you can also post your questions in the chat in all capital letters, please, for our lovely moderator, Sierra Lovelace. Thank you, Sierra. I would also like to extend a great big thank you just now to our audience, those listening live tonight, as well as those listening later to the archived recording. Let us all take a moment together now to set our intention for tonight's show as being in alignment with the highest good for all, providing space for resonant information, validation, and support for anyone who has found their way to this broadcast. Our special guest this evening is Derrick Faust. Derrick was born in Ogden, Utah, and then moved to Park City, Utah at the age of 6. He enlisted in the United States Navy at the age of 22, where he was an information systems technician, achieving a rank of petty officer second class. His first duty station was aboard the USS Chosen CG-65, the War Dragon, where he completed 2 Western Pacific deployments as the communication watch officer and his enlisted surface warfare specialist pin. Derrick volunteered for a 6-month assignment to Baghdad, Iraq, as a communication specialist for a 2-star general in charge of Joint Task Force -134 detainee operations. During that assignment, he was also responsible for the communications during the Saddam Hussein trial as the Information Systems Operations Center supervisor. After being honorably discharged from his last duty station at Naval Mobile Construction Battalion -17, Derrick attained a Level 1 CrossFit certificate and coached at various CrossFit gyms while he completed degrees in both physical therapy and business management. In October of 2015, Derrick was approached by a group of interdimensional beings and has been on a whirlwind of morphing self and outer discoveries ever since. So Derrick, welcome to Golden Frequency Radio. We are super excited to have you with us tonight. To start us off, can you tell us the story of your first contact with interdimensional beings just a year ago?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, thank you so much for having me on your guys' show. It's a real honor to get to talk to the both of you. I mean, I know I've had a lot of conversations, just Eric and I, so it's cool to have an audience be able to kind of see what we morph into, because we always have some crazy fun stuff pop up. So thank you guys so much for having me on.
You are very welcome.
My first contact, so I'm actually coming upon a really important date on the 24th. It's going to be a year since I had a group of light beings make contact with me. And so we'll flash backwards to October of last year, October 24th, where I was in Park City, Utah. I was cleaning my car, and this was in the daytime, and I kind of got the nudge to just lay down on my back and look up at the sky and start just projecting myself out into the universe, something that I've done countless times throughout that whole period leading up to that. So as I'm doing that, I see some leaves in my peripheral, on the side. I'm laying down in a house in a driveway on a mountain. So there's all these trees that are lining the driveway, so I can see the trees kind of blowing in the wind in my peripheral, but my straight ahead vision is just blue sky. When all of a sudden I think I see a leaf like coming down the center of that blue sky. And so that kind of gives you like a little bit of a size reference to what it looked like, but it turned out not to be a leaf at all. But it was more so, when I sat up and kind of got my bearings a little bit so I could see what I was looking at, it looked more like a beach ball, like a really huge beach ball, just floating in the sky, completely silent, and rotating in a clockwise fashion. And half of the beach ball was red, and then the other half was white. So it was this circulating red and white beach ball, like maybe 300 or 400 feet above me. And granted, I'm at an altitude, standing on top of a mountain at 10,000 feet or so. So it's not like this is like sea level and just a couple hundred feet. Like this is thousands of feet up. I'm just also thousands of feet up, but it's probably 300 feet above me. Anyway, so as it's like rotating and going past over my head, I see it went from south to north. And as I turn around back south to be like, what did I just see? I saw another one. So a second red beach ball going up and over me and in the same exact path as that first one. And that was amazing. I'd had, little experiences here and there. Eric and I have both been to Mount Shasta and witnessed a lot of different things in the sky flying around, but I'd never seen anything like this before. It was just right there in the daytime. So I'm kind of sitting on this little bit of a high. So the next day, I'm at the same house, and I go outside at night, and I'm on the phone, and I'm talking to someone about what's going on. And when all of a sudden out in the horizon, the distance, probably about 10 miles away, 8 to 10 miles, maybe less. I'm not really good at judging those kinds of distances. But I'm on the top of a mountain. There's the Park City Valley, so it's below me, the city, and then rising up is another set of mountains. And on that other set of mountains comes this light, just barely over the horizon, and then starts to come down the mountainside and starts making its way toward my area or towards my direction. And I'd been outside a lot, and I didn't like all the helicopters that had been flying over in previous times that I had been outside, not this particular time. But each time a helicopter would fly over, I would just get a weird kind of feeling, and I just didn't like it. So I thought this was a helicopter. And again, this is at night, and it's just a red light. So it comes down, and I just kind of sidestep over into some bushes, and I'm just going to let it pass over me because it would pass over, and I'm just right there being able to see and not being able to be seen by it, and that just kind of freaked me out. Anyway, so I step over to the side, and it comes just down the face of the mountain, stops, and then backtracks back up the side of the mountain, and then up to the horizon, and then pauses on the horizon. And I could probably fit my finger between where the light was and the horizon, so I know this is not anything that's traveling on the ground. If it is, excuse me, if it is, it has the ability to travel on the ground and in the air in an instant, which a helicopter would seem like it could do it, but it just didn't. It wasn't blinking. It was a solid light, so it didn't seem like any type of aircraft. Anyway, I'm looking at it, and then all of a sudden it flashes at me and then goes a little bit dimmer, and I was kind of taken aback by it, and then it flashed at me again. And I'm on the phone with this person saying, I think this thing is flashing at me, and I don't know what it's doing. And just as I said that, it flashed again and then disappeared. So that was day 2. And I never seen anything like that before, but, 2 days in a row of having this happen, I'm very optimistic, but kind of skeptical that it's going to continue for a third day. Anyway, on the third day, I go outside, and instead of one red light, now there's 3 of these red lights. It's like this one red light was in scouting mode or something, and then I felt this light recognize me, back up the mountain and disappear, and then the next night I felt that he came back and brought 2 other red scouts or whatever to see what was going on. And so I'm outside looking on the horizon from the top of this mountain, and these things are jumping all over the horizon, like dipping down below and then moving like what would be 40, 50 miles or something in the horizon, and just popping up like in an instant, like doing things that planes cannot do, or helicopters or anything else I've ever seen on this earth. And so I needed to get someone else to see this, so my dad was inside the house. So I go inside and he's watching football. So I'm like, hey, Dad, do you want to come and see something amazing? Like, there are these lights outside that I feel are dancing around the sky for me. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you just have to come and see this. So he comes out, looks out, sees it, or so I think he sees it, and then he goes, oh, cool, and then turns around and goes right back into watching football. So I thought he just saw it and just wasn't really enthused about it, or didn't recognize what was going on, but he possibly could not have been seeing that at all, because I feel that when you expose yourself to these kinds of things, or when these kinds of things are exposed to you, you start to now vibrate or resonate at a higher frequency, or at a different frequency, and you're able to see these things or pick them up. Kind of like with a different radio, you can catch a little bit extra. You know, if you get a radio that's more powerful, you can get a little bit more of a frequency band available to you than someone who has a radio that's not as powerful or as attuned. So I guess it's just an upgrading of your radio. So we'll flash forward to probably day 8 or 9, and these things are coming at me on the ridge line every single night. And then so the red one comes up, and then we won't flash forward to day 9 yet, because this is a progressive thing. So the third day, 3 of the red ones show up, and then the next day, the 4th day, there are 5 red ones, and they brought a gold one, and this gold one is huge, massive, and I'm able to take pictures and videos of all of this too, because I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and so I took all these pictures and videos from a skeptic's point of view, or like I'm documenting this as a skeptic. And when I took pictures of this gold one with these red things floating around, I was able to catch like an energy resonance from this thing, almost like an energetic fingerprint. The pictures came out to be a gold orb, and a very line around the edge of this gold orb were different colors, red and blue, or no, not red, like blue and purple and green, or some kind of variance of those. And so that was really cool, and that plays a part later on as I progress in this story, because I'm not having any time to like sit and like really critically think about all this stuff, because it's every night and it's increasing more and more and more and more, and it's just really hard to process this all, but I'm adapting and trying my hardest as we go along. So the gold one showed up, and then the red ones were with it. It was like they were doing all these different cool maneuvers, and I was able to get pictures of it. They were spinning around, like all 5 of them were like orbiting around the gold one. It was just really, really cool. Anyway, so we had that, and then now we can flash forward to later on. I believe this is, October 31st, probably November, I would think 4th or 5th or something like that. I left my house in Park City, where I was having all of these experiences, and I moved to Heber City. in like an instant. It was one night I was there, and then the next night I was in Heber because of something that happened. Anyway, I was really kind of worried that they weren't going to follow me or they weren't going to show up. Even though we had like all of these cool experiences and I know that they were there for me, I was just kind of a little bummed out because I didn't think they were going to follow me, but they actually did. And it's like they waited until I moved to Heber, or they knew I was going to move to Heber, and that's when they started to amp up their interaction or their contact with me. They would start from up in the horizon, just above the ridge line, and then they started to come down the hill. But this time, instead of like coming down just a little bit ways, now they were crossing over the city, the Heber city I was in, and they were coming all the way up to the street light just down the street from me. And I have pictures of, sequential kind of picture of this white orb. A white orb showed up when I moved to Heber as well. So it's like they were moving up their hierarchy. The red ones were like the scouts, and the gold one was like a middle management, I would say, and then the white ones were, I feel like, the leader, but I don't think they're the leader per se, higher up on that whole thing. And every one of them, the gold one and the white one, they all had this different energy, fingerprint resonance, as I was saying. It was in just a little bit of a different color combination. So when there were multiple gold ones, the color around them was a little bit different. And then there was only one white one. Anyways, so they came down on one side of the street, and then they hopped over and then came to me on the other side of the street. And when they hopped over and came to the other side of the street, that's when I followed them. They called me over to this one area. I followed them over, and they do this. They call me over to these areas by flashing. I'll take pictures or videos, and it leads me over to where they want me to go. So I did that. I followed where they wanted me to go, and as soon as I got there, there was just one center light, and then all these lights around the side, and there were so many of them, and it was popping up so much, I didn't know if this was what I was supposed to see, if this was just cars, or this was whatever. So I just started taking pictures. And then that day ended, and I was able to go back and look at the pictures that I got, and I have actual pictures of extraterrestrials. A couple of them are in the orbs. The orbs that I take pictures of are not like the orbs that most people take pictures of, where they just take a picture at like a party or an event or something, and they look through their camera and they're like, oh yeah, there's some orbs here and here and here. These ones are like physically in front of me. They're manifesting in front of me. I can see them with my naked eye. And so I got a couple of the orbs with these really, really cool looking faces, feline mostly. I've felt a strong pull towards feline in this group the whole time. I've been in this interaction with them. So I have pictures of that, and then also outside of the orb, like it stepped out of an orb or it used the orb as a transportation device or something, but I have an actual like ET light being, like it manifested itself in physical form, and I have multiple pictures of it looking left, looking straight, and then looking kind of a little bit crooked. So I'm having all of these, and this is only in a 2-week period. It's ramped up to be where it is. So the next night, I'm like 100% sure, like I am going on a ship. I am going to some kind of other dimension or on some kind of craft, and I'm preparing myself for that this particular night. And this is, I think this is November 7th. Yeah, this is November 7th. It was the same night. Do you guys remember November 7th last year when there was a missile test of some strange thing off the coast of California?
Yeah, the big blue one in the sky, right?
Yeah, blue, or like other people saw different things or whatever, but you recall that, right? It was a big,
Yeah, definitely.
big thing, in the UFO community and whatever. Well,
Yeah, it looked like a portal, sort of. Is that the sort of spiral? I do remember that as well.
yeah, it looked like a ball in the sky that shot out some kind of exhaust or something.
It was
what
definitely an interesting event that took place in the sky. That was like no missile I've ever seen before.
Exactly. Okay, so now let's do this. So that night, November 7th, occurred at 6 p.m. California time. 6 p.m., 6:01, something like that. At that exact same time, 7 o'clock, 7:01 p.m. Mountain time, I'm outside doing this thing, running around with these light beams because they called me out that night, and I'm running around, and then all of a sudden they stop. And I was like, this is really strange because not only did they stop flashing up on the light up on the hillside when they were doing it a bunch, they were like boom, 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 and then they just stopped. It was just, I now felt alone. And I didn't realize that I had felt like there was somebody with me the whole time until that feeling was gone. And I just felt alone. And I was kind of thinking about, wow, what is going on? What is this new twist in this whole process that I'm going through? And I'm thinking about this as I'm walking back up to my house, and that's when to my right, about 3/4 of a mile, maybe a mile, as the crow flies, on this little hill. Now, mind you, this is at nighttime, and it's really thick clouds out, so I can't even see the sky, right? So I can't see this supposed missile that everybody saw from 2 and 3 and 4 states away, which is ridiculous. If you think about the curvature of the Earth and everything, they can't see that. But anyways, so rising up, 3/4 of a mile away from me to my right is what looks like the moon. It's fast rising above, from the backside of this hill, but the hill is only a mile away, and that would be the wrong spot for the moon to rise, and it's a cloudy day, so all those cancel out being the moon, but that's what it looks like. And then all of a sudden, as I'm looking over where I'm hearing this, or where I'm seeing this light, I hear a noise from that same location, and it sounds like a group of fire extinguishers went off, and are continually going, and I'm like, what the hell is this? And I'm expecting some kind of single light vehicle of some sort to come and crest over this hill, but there's nothing. All that's coming over this hill is this indent of a huge, and I mean probably 60, 70 feet in diameter, cloaked sphere is all I can, that's all I can describe it. It's just, and I can only really see it because it's making this weird imprint in the clouds, and I can sense that it's there. I feel it's right there. And I've never seen anything like this before, ever. And so I took an 11-second video of it, and you can hear the in the background, and some weird, and this didn't happen with my naked eye because I didn't see this because I'm in an open place and nothing crossed in front of me, but there's this golden rectangle something that jumps across the screen really quick, less than a second it takes to go over it, and I was able to pause at a later date. I was able to pause that video in these different frames that this thing crossed in front, and it's like a morphing of gray alien, like a gray face with human eyes, nose, mouth. I mean, again, I've never seen anything like this before. At any rate, I didn't see this originally. I just took the film, and then I took a picture. And in the picture, I was able to kind of tease out where you can see the imprint that I was seeing of this sphere. Do you remember? You remember those pictures I showed you, Eric? Right?
Yeah. I remember when you were going through all of this, and you weren't really talking much about it, and it was. I just knew that you were doing some very interesting stuff, and I didn't find out about all of this until later on. So, I mean, it was really interesting to see from the outside perspective of what you were actually doing, and then hear it from the inside like this. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have not been. This isn't like a fame searching thing for anything. It's all been organic, and it's been ever developing, but it's not been anything that I've like ran out to be like, oh my God, I saw this or I didn't experience this. It's like there's deep meaning to all of this. So that's why it's kind of taken me a long time to really come out with a lot of stuff, and it's an ever evolving story too. Like when I get into the footprint here in a minute, I didn't find out what that aspect of my story really was until I went to Mount Shasta and got to sit down and talk to Corey Good, face to face, and I got to show him these things that I've been going through, and he hadn't even seen the things that I've been taking pictures of. But anyway, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. So this sphere comes crawling up over the mountain and shooting this, and so it was shooting out this self-illuminating fog, whatever that means, right? But that's what I was seeing, was this self-illuminating fog coming from this cloaked sphere that was 60, 70 feet big. And as I'm watching this, I'm watching this for a good, solid minute, 2 minutes, something like that. Something like that. I'm not exactly sure, because, when you're in the heat of the moment like that, the time ticking in your head is not the first thing that you're worried about. But it was there for a minute, and I was able to feel this when it stopped spraying, because I felt that it noticed me noticing. And it stopped spraying as soon as I felt like, oh shit, they see me. And then it stopped spraying. It kind of sat there for a minute and floated, and I walked straight over into the path of where it was going to be, because I guess I like danger. And there was nothing. I couldn't feel anything anymore or anything. It was like it was just gone. So I went through that, and then that was 14 days straight of having a contacted experience, or whatever you want to label it. And it went on for another 26, 27 straight days, with something every single night of these things popping up on the hillside or in the sky or whatever. And the only reason why it stopped is because it just got too cold at night. I didn't want to play anymore, in 0 degrees, running around. Wasn't fun. So I sat on everything I had for a while, a month and a half, 2 months, something like that. And just all these behind-the-scene things were just falling into place and playing out in the ways that they needed to. And then when I decided to come out, I posted up my very first posting. I think it was early January of this year. And then that night, so I made my first posting, and then that night, I just felt this huge need to call on Archangel Michael for protection. Protect me, protect my house, protect my property, bring, a legion of battle angels, whatever. I need protection. I need you to keep all dark forces away from me, da-da-da-da-da. And I'm just, spewing out this long list of protections and stuff that I don't even know where half of this stuff is coming from, but I'm asking for protection from this, that, and the other. And so I go to sleep that night. I wake up in the morning and I get this little nudge like, you got something outside. You got something outside. You need to go look now. And when I have these kinds of feelings and stuff, I just go with them because it's coming from somewhere. Someone trying to nudge me, and I'm going. I like danger. I'm going. So I go to the back door and I look down, and there's, granted this is wintertime, and so I look in the backyard, and I'll kind of work it out from like the edge into where the sliding glass door is that I'm at. There's a big backyard that has no accessible walkways. It's just a big open backyard. There's no footprints in there. Come in a little bit, there's probably, maybe a 20 by 20 foot slab of concrete as like a little, porch on the ground, and no footprints. My porch has 3 steps that go up. It's a, big, pretty wide wooden set of steps. You stand in the middle and you can pretty much go fingertip to fingertip and touch the side to side. So it's a pretty big area, right? It's not little. And it has 3 wooden steps. Well, there's a single footprint on the very top of those 3 steps, like in the bigger area, walks up 3 steps, and then you have like probably a 3 foot by 3 foot or whatever little pad, and there's a single footprint there. This footprint is probably like a size 14, maybe 15, and wide. This is a huge foot. And there's just one footprint leading away from the house. And there's nothing else there. No other footprints around, not leading up towards the house, not leading away from the house. And this footprint is perfect. There's no, if someone were to make like, a 1-step movement and go to where he couldn't be seen from the next step, he would have had to jump probably 300 feet in order to not leave another step. And even that, is impossible on its own. But even if he attempted to do something like that, there would be some kind of like smudge in the toe area or the heel or something. This is just a perfectly flat footprint. And then the tread pattern is something I've never seen before. It's like a flat oval. I know ovals are flat already, but kind of flatten it out a little bit more, and then make them like the size of like just one joint of your finger, and then walk that down just straight vertically from the toe to the heel in like a line of them, like, tread, and then that's down, the left side and the right side from that center piece. So it doesn't look like any type of winter boot, any type of workout shoe, or anything that I've seen. You saw the footprint, right, Eric?
Yeah, I definitely saw that one. That one is a really interesting picture because, you can't see anything whatsoever leading away from the house. It's just this one giant, massive footprint in the middle of the snow, and absolutely nothing anywhere else. It's really interesting, but that tread pattern, like you said, I've never seen anything like it either. It's like no athletic shoe, no basketball shoe, no workout boot, like a work boot or anything like that I've ever seen. No snow boots or anything like that. It's a really strange, almost like a bubbly pattern. It's got it looks like it's got amazing surface area grip on the whole entire thing, but I've never seen anything like it before. It was definitely an interesting picture.
Right. And so I had shared that picture over social media on several occasions or via a lot of different chat groups and whatnot, and nobody has been able to identify it. With that many people putting eyes on it and stuff, nobody has ever seen anything like that until I was able to connect with Corey Good at the Mount Shasta conference this past August. And I showed him the pictures of the orbs with the feline faces in them, and he goes, "Well, I've never seen anything like that before." And then I showed him the ET that I have a picture of, the light being ET. You can clearly see, mouth, nose, eyes, chin, chest, muscles, shoulder, everything, and he, was taken aback a little bit. He's like, I've never seen anything like that before either. And so I thought that was interesting. I was like, okay, well, how about this? This footprint just showed up out of nowhere the day after I came out with my story. And I didn't really go into my stuff with Corey. I'm sure he hears, hundreds of stories of people from wherever, but that's kind of all that I left it at. And he looks at it and then looks again and goes, yeah, I've seen this before. And my jaw, dropped to the floor. I had to pick it back up and say, what is this? And he goes, yeah, this is an all-weather boot for the military, the secret space program. It was like, serious. This is right outside of my house, like right there. He goes, well, I'm sure somebody was meant to leave it there. So it was a purposeful message. So that kind of put the stamp on the final one, I guess, of like what all transpired through that time was specific, was intentional, and it was monitored.
Definitely,
so that's
kind of interesting story, man. Like, and it's not just something that you've got pictures and video of. I mean, you've just got stuff that pops up around you. Like, what was it? The first night we were there, we couldn't listen to the interview live because of some electronic snafu. So we went and took a walk, and we saw all kinds of stuff in the sky that night. We had a bunch of people who've never seen anything like that before, and it was like, well, we're with Derrick Faust. It's you're going to see something, And I mean, it's just anywhere you go. It's really cool to actually see stuff like that. It's really interesting stuff, man. Really interesting stuff. You've got an awesome story here. I love it.
So
it's Go ahead.
Yeah. No, my feeling as you're telling this story before you even said it really was that it's clearly intentional communication, and I would imagine that you're still working that out. And this question might be a little bit too early, and we can wait until you go further in your story if it's too soon to answer it. But what I'm really interested in is your feeling about why you were chosen for this contact and this communication. And I'm sure that there are other people on this planet that have experienced at least something similar to this, I would imagine, and just sort of what your feeling is about you as an individual in the context of this story.
No, that's a great question. That's a perfect time for it. It's been such a blessing and a curse for this. It's been a completely ever developing story. Like I said, and including, my involvement in all of this. So I've gotten ideas, I should say, intuition, bursts, or whatever you want to call it, to where I feel something is right with this. I know something is right. And what I've felt and I've had confirmed from, I've called into different radio shows with hosts that I've known, and they've let me talk to psychics that have no idea who I am or anything about me, and they've all verified independently of each other what I have thought and kind of why I've been chosen for this type of interaction. And it's because this is my soul family, my soul group. This is who I'm connected with on multiple different dimensional levels. This is the group who I intermix with for incarnations, and what you do for incarnations. And I also feel that one of these beings is a higher dimensional aspect of myself. That's been hard to wrap my brain.
Yeah. Yeah, that I love the resonation in that. And so does it sort of feel as though, this is really just sort of the beginning to sort of get the ball rolling for whatever purpose it is that you've incarnated as Derrick Faust in this human life to do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It feels as though it will develop for you even further.
Yes, and I wholeheartedly believe that, and that is also where a lot of this, and I actually haven't told anybody about this yet, so I guess I'm kind of saying it for the first time, but there is so much pressure on me, and I know it's, mainly I'm bringing it on myself, but like to be that rock, to be that person who isn't perfect, because I know nobody's perfect, but to improve on the things that I need to improve on. And when I don't do that, it feels monumentally as though I failed, because I have these beings that I feel I live with a glass roof. These things can not only see me, but they see in me my intentions, my thoughts, my energy, my everything. So, this is a huge responsibility that's put a lot of pressure on me, but is most definitely for a bigger reason in the end.
It's really funny because you can feel that like that, but most people can't. You've got stuff that's showing up to you, but this is how we all are. We're a complete open book to anything that's not physical. That's what the language of light is. We don't speak in English. We speak in emotion, in image, in sensation, in impulse. It's all an emotional language that isn't bound by physical language. It's not bound by having to speak, and that's how we all are. And it's really interesting because it does actually bring quite a bit of pressure to the fact that that everything can see what you're doing. Everybody can tell, even if nobody around you actually knows what's actually happening energetically, and you are actually having to recognize this. It's a really interesting perspective. But that's the thing, man. We're here for a purpose. We're all here for a job, a reason that we came. And, it's one of the things that, I definitely feel it too. I feel like I should be doing more with the systems that we figured out and, can actually take care of. I feel like we should be doing a lot more work. And it does really kind of put a lot of pressure on you. But, we can only do what we can do. We came in here to turn the light on, and as long as we're shining, that's what really matters, But it's all about that internal work. It's all about that shadow work. It's becoming better than you were the day before and not really stopping, because it's always a constant progression up. It's not like, hey, I mastered this. It's never like that. It's always like, one more day. Let's do this one more day, one more day, forever.
Yeah, but I would not trade any of this in for anything. To include the negative aspects that it's brought me, isolation from people because they don't understand me or what I'm going through. I don't have a single person in real life that I can sit down and talk to about this that's accessible. All my friends and support group for this stuff, because it's really hard, have been via Facebook and online and stuff, and which is totally fine with me, because I feel I'm a way shower for what's about to come for humanity and for other people in them meeting their galactic family, their galactic fill in the blank, whatever, is that people are going to go through some of these feelings, these emotions, these thoughts that I'm going through. And if I keep focused that I'm going through these things for a reason, for the betterment of other people, that's really what has like propelled me to keep going through this, because it's been very, very easy to step off of this at any point, because it's not easy.
No,
you're
you're definitely a lighthouse. And so, Derrick, is there a way that anyone who is listening to this either tonight or archived who has had an experience and would like to get in touch with you, is there a way that someone can contact you and start a conversation, potentially?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm always open to talk to anybody, anytime, about anything. And actually, a lot of people who stumble upon my YouTube videos or stumble upon an interview that I've done, or have been with me to have, you know, me point out certain things in the sky, like, it extends them into all of this. So yeah, so people find me for reasons I feel in their development. So yeah, I have some ways that people can access me, and I would love to have as many people shoot me emails or messages or whatever who want to, because I love answering this stuff and talking about it. But I have a YouTube channel. You can find me at Derrick's, DERRICKS, Light, LIGHT, Friends, FRIENDS, and that's all one word. Or else you can just find me on Facebook, shoot me a friend request, and open up a conversation that way.
Perfect. Yeah, I would imagine that as time goes on, there's going to be more and more people who have experiences like this who are contacted and communicated with, and that they will be looking for someone to help guide them through that experience. So it's very clear that this has happened to you at a time where you're sort of the snowplow, right? You're sort of the lighthouse out in front, experiencing this first, because someone has to, right? It's a big job. Just for the listening audience, if anyone would like to call in and join the conversation, you can call 619-924-9805. And if you would like to join us on air, please press 1 to let me know that you would like to speak with us. And also, you're welcome to put your questions in the chat. Please use all capital letters so that we know that you have a question. And then so I think I sort of stopped you in the middle of your story, sort of there, if you remember where you were and you'd like to pick it back up. Or I know you've got a number of other kind of amazing stories to tell if you'd like to segue into something else. It's really, you have the floor, so wherever you want to go with that, Derrick.
Sure, yeah. So we'll kind of, so that's the bulk of my experience. I would say the most intense piece, and it's nonstop since then, but that most intense piece was that 2-week period where I first got contacted, and then that day where that evil spear thing showed up and sprayed that self-illuminating fog that, I don't think I mentioned that that fog cut off my contact with my light friends. So that was freaky. Anyway, so that's kind of the bulk of it, but it's progressed into so many other aspects, and why I further think that I'm a way shower of sorts is because I've been exposed to so many different things. I've been exposed to a huge green portal. I mean, that was like maybe a mile from top to bottom, open up in the sky and then close up. I've seen, I think I saw a TR-3B, a triangular craft when I was a child. But since this has happened, I've seen pumpkin seed looking craft. I've seen chevron looking craft. Stingray looking craft. I've seen all kinds of different things streaking in the sky. I've been exposed to a lot, so I can recognize a lot. But what was kind of knocked off my bucket list a little while ago, and there was somebody with me, yay, which makes it even cooler, was I was able to actually have my first, I think, and you guys can verify it too if you want to. Maybe you can tell me if it's something else, but I had my first Bigfoot experience. It was amazing. So here's what happened. So there was a meteor shower. This is this was mid-August, so this was pretty recent. So this was mid-August when we were going through some kind of meteor shower, and this girl and I decided to go up to Deer Valley Resort, and there's a road that kind of winds around the mountain, and there's this one horseshoe bend where you can park at the end, or you can park on the edge of the horseshoe bend, and then like 5 feet away, you duck under this little fence, and then walk another 15 feet, and you're on a ski resort, a run for a ski resort, and it's really open, right? But it's got a pretty steep pitch to it. Lots of loose rocks and a little bit of vegetation and whatnot, but completely lined with trees. Anyway, so we first get to this spot, we park, and as soon as we park, I look out of the front windshield, and over on the horizon is this golden looking star. And you've seen these, Eric, some of the ones that we saw in Shasta, but one of the more the brighter ones. Anyway, it pops up and just starts this vertical rise straight up in the sky. And it probably went as far as, if you were to put like a pen, in your hand and extend it out, and it'd probably go from like the tip of the pen like to the tip, so from top to bottom. That's about how far it went in the sky straight up. And then it started to do this small little like upside down J hook. Take the letter J and flip it upside down, and the hook goes to the left now. And it was on that kind of a path. And then it flashed a little, went dim, flashed a little, went dim, and then disappeared. So that was really cool. And then we get to getting all of our stuff together. So we're probably like a little, maybe 5 or 8 minutes or so, just kind of messing around, getting all of our stuff ready. So we're sitting in this area for that long, making a decent amount of noise. And then we grab our stuff and we go underneath the fence, and we set up a spot to look at the meteor shower or anything else that goes, bump in the night in the sky. And we catch, a couple crafts, maybe satellites or whatever, passing in the sky, and then over to the south, straight out from us, we see this golden orb pop up, and it travels along the ridgeline, of the horizon just across from us, in the same location that I was seeing these golden orbs almost a year ago. So, that shows up, slowly traverses across the horizon. I actually have a video of this that I posted up. So that's kind of cool too. Anyway, so we see, these two things coming up from, orbs coming up from the ridgeline. So we're kind of like, oh, this is so cool, this is great, and that's about a, 20-minute span. So we're probably like 35, 40 minutes in this spot, in this area. So, and in that whole time, we've not heard anything walking through the woods. We've not sensed anything. We've not, nothing, right? But then all of a sudden, about 60 feet down from us, and we're kind of, it's a like I said, it's a steep pitch and down, and then the run dog legs to the right, and then as it dog legs to the right, just on the left side of that, it's all lit up like condos and everything. So it's light down there, but dark up where we're at. And so, but anyways, about 60 feet down to us and to the left, we hear this in the forest, right? It's not out in the open, but in the forest, just lining the side of the run, we hear like this grunt breathe snort thing. It's like, or something like that. But it sounded like a big animal. And her and I both kind of freed up for a second, and we didn't say anything, but we're like, what the freak was that? And that's when there was the first boom, boom, and this thing had taken steps, right? Boom, step, and as soon as the first step, like, we could feel this thing's step. That was really strange. We could feel it in the ground, but it just thundering, boom. And I looked down over into that area of the forest, and out from the forest stepped this. I only saw the silhouette, but I could see a head and shoulders. But it was like reality didn't make sense to me for a second, because this silhouette, if it was a person, it looked like it should have been like 5 feet from me or whatever, because it was so huge. But it was 60 feet away, but it was still so huge, and it just wasn't making sense to me. And then I heard the next step, and that's when the girl next to me, she looked down there and saw the silhouette, and it was making its way across the run. And then sometime between like the third step and the fourth step or something. Oh wait, no, before that. So there was a step and then a step, and then we both felt scared, because we thought that something huge was coming up at us, because it was right there. We could feel the steps, hear it, the grunt, snort, like everything. It was terrifying, really, because we're out in the woods and there's nothing, no one, no help. So I start leaning over, because I keep a quick stick or a little foldable baton in my backpack for protection when I'm out running around. And she's an MMA fighter, so she carries a little knife with her in her purse. So at the same time, I'm leaning over to get my quick stick. She's leaning over to get her knife. But then we both felt this sense of calm. I don't know where it came from. She doesn't know where it came from, but we felt this sense of calm. And then it was, and then we heard the other steps. And sometime in between the third and the fourth step, we both lost sight of this thing, even though it was out in the open. And the lights were down behind it, the lights from the lower condos or whatever they were. And then it was, Bigfoot or this thing, and then it was us. So it's like sandwich. So there's no reason for it to just disappear from our sight. But all of a sudden we couldn't see it anymore. But we heard this boom, 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 boom. And then it made it across an entire ski run, and then just disappeared into the forest. And my friend looks at me and goes, "What the hell was that?" And I go, "Shh, hang on a second." And being a personal trainer, I go off of sounds a lot, like someone dropping their weights. I can for some reason I can recount the sounds that somebody makes with their weights, like way after they've already done with their lift. Just dun 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 dun. Oh yeah, you did five reps. So I listened in my head for the sounds again. I replayed them, and I heard boom, 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 boom. And I told her, I said 7 steps. That thing crossed an entire ski run, the width of a ski run, in 7 steps, which is absolutely impossible. And then we looked at each other and we said, okay, I told her, we now have to go over exactly everything what happened, because our minds are going to rationalize this and they're going to change things in order to make this make sense, and we can't do that. We just have to go off with facts. So I just counted 7 steps it took it to get across the thing. And then we're like, okay, could it be any type of 4-legged animal? no, it can't be any type of four-legged animal because the sounds we heard were like a meat kind of sound, not a hoof on, and it was very rocky and slick, and there was no sliding in it either. It was very direct and powerful and like slap down instead of like a hoof sound. And plus, a four-legged animal through the forest would make a very different sound than a bipedal animal, you know, with four legs. But a biped would just boom, 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 and that's what we heard. So then we're like, okay, what in this area could possibly make a bipedal sound like that? Okay, let's say it's a bear, right? So somehow a bear made it through the forest without us hearing it, and then stood up on two legs and then ran across a ski run, the width of it, in 7 steps. Impossible. So that's when we came up to the conclusion, like, there's no other explanation for it. So we both came up with Bigfoot.
Well, it makes perfect sense, and I do believe that Sasquatch are interdimensional, so that would explain why you were unable to maintain a visual contact with it, potentially. Mm-hmm. But I think it's really clear, Derrick, that you have some higher senses turned on. You know, early on in this show, you talked about how it's, you know, you made a comparison between radio bandwidth, or, you know, having a more powerful radio and being able to pick up more frequency or stronger frequency. And I think that I think that you have a radio with more bandwidth in that way, that you're able to perceive cross-dimensionally, don't you think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what's funny is I've never used that analogy like that before. It just kind of came out of you know, my left field, but it felt right.
Well, I think it's like the perfect way to describe it. You know, if like your radio only goes from, you know, 90 to 92, then you're missing out on all the other bands of frequency on the radio, on the FM station, you know, and it's kind of like you're spreading your bandwidth out, you're allowing more of a information bucket, you know, you're catching more stuff. But I mean, you know, and I just absolutely love your whole entire story, and like how your whole background, how you came from like a very promising career in the military and just dropped it all, said, I can't do this for you people anymore, and now here you are with your light family trying to get a hold of you. Like, I just love your story. It's awesome, man.
Yeah, I got out because I didn't believe. I worked intelligence, and, you know, just saw too much horrible things going on, and the stories that, you know, Army people and Navy people and these medical people are telling me that is happening to these people that they're looking out after, and the situation with the Iraqis and the Afghanis and everything. I was just, this is too much. I morally cannot do this anymore. I don't care if I'm one of those homeless guys underneath the bridge, those homeless vets. Like, I can't do this anymore. And it's so glad. The second best thing I ever did was join the military, but the first best thing I ever did was to get out.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
But it's just been such a fun experience, and actually not this time at Shasta, but the last time at Shasta, I really got a perspective to really focus in on the inner work. And this was before Corey came out with his name. He was Corey Good. He was still Good ETSG.
Yeah.
And even before he was coming out on a blog site called The One Truth, I think he just barely come out with those Project Avalon recordings. But when I listen to my intuition, I stop trying to find these gurus or, you know, somebody with the greatest next intel or channeling or whatever. I'm directed towards these amazing people and these places that I need to be at. Like, I was directed very early on to Stillness in the Storm for Justin Deschamps, and through kind of our interactions and our friendship, like, I was able to become an admin for him through his old newsroom and then this newsroom. And then through that process, you know, I found Corey Good very early on. I think I was like the number 3 like on his Sphere Being Alliance page. I think it was like 50,000 or something now. But when I dropped trying to find things and allowed it to come in when it needed to, it's been an exponential growth. And one of the most fun things that has opened up for me, and the ability to kind of wake people up or to implant some type of a thought process for alternate realities, alternate dimensions, timelines, something outside of conventional thinking, has been the Mandela effect. And I came into that in, I think I found it in June of 2015, something like that. So I'm coming up on like a year and a half of seeing this thing develop and seeing it be validated by an entity that I have a lot of trust in, and that's Corey Good and his interactions and contacts with Raw Tier Air from the Sphere Being Alliance. So coming up on all of this stuff has been so much fun. But Beth, are you aware of the Mandela effect?
Oh yeah, definitely. I even have a few of my own, actually, which I think we probably all do. Although, you know, I'm still sort of tossing around what I think is actually happening with the Mandela effect, but I'd love to hear what your take is.
Wow. So my take is that I think of it like a rope, right there, and there is one constant timeline, I think, and we're on it. But from that, I guess, ropey kind of constant timeline, there's frays of that rope, and those frays of the rope are the little Mandela effects that we're experiencing. And so what's happening is everything is tightening up. Everything is combining back into this one singular timeline in order for us to go through an event of sorts. Because, you know, if you have all these random things all over the place, it's going to be harder to, I guess, corral different frays in the singular timeline into just one piece. And then once everything is in that one piece, or whenever it's ready, the mass consciousness, whatever the go is we're going to experience some kind of event, whether that be an ascension, harvest, the solar event that in, you know, the real world, the White House just put out a press or a executive order saying that in the next 120 days, like, we need to be ready for some kind of solar event to happen. Putin and the Russians, Putin and the oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, it really corresponds to what Corey Good talks about with the solar sneeze. Mm-hmm. And I know that people have been talking about an event for many, many years, which I couldn't really get an intuitive feel on. I definitely could read that, you know, changes were happening, but an actual event, I never could really get a real clear intuitive grasp on that until fairly recently. And in fact, it feels as though the ball is already rolling. I mean, I realize an event is clearly an event, but I think the shadow of an event potentially hits us before the event hits us, if that makes any sense. It's like kind of a strange way of saying it. But I can feel it very distinctly. And so that's fascinating. So basically the rope is tightening up to prepare us to pass through whatever this event is,
Mm-hmm.
and that creates the sensation.
That's what I've got, piecing together all of these different, timeline theories and parallel universes and things. It just seems like we're all being packed in here together. Like, why am I with someone who remembers life was like a box of chocolates when it was 100% life is like a box of chocolates? Like, there has to be a reason why I'm slammed in here with that person. Because the version of me that experienced that or didn't experience that is no longer here. Does that make sense? That's kind of another aspect I'm kind of trying to wrap my brain around.
So, what it brings to mind to me is my personal experience, especially lately, is a high level of integration of other, aspects of self that are not my conscious Beth Ann human aspect. There's an increase in integration of ourselves, and so it almost sort of feels like that's where you're going with it, where we sort of that aspect of you as an individual is no longer present because it's been integrated potentially.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah, because that's one of the aspects I was saying was I'm still trying to grasp, and I think I'm on the cusp of it, but I just need something else. Like, what happened to them? Like, someone obviously experienced life was like a box of chocolates. Someone obviously experienced magic mirror on the wall. Those realities happened. Where was I? Because I didn't experience those. Does that make sense? Where's the me that experienced those? Did we integrate and now I'm the dominant me in that merging? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the next piece of this that I need to figure out.
Well, it could be not just like alternate timelines. It could be like, well, for every decision that's ever made, there's an alternate universe that splits off to go make that decision a reality. And it could be kind of like a narrowing of all of those split realities down into one. So instead of billions of aspects of you doing infinite forms of whatever, there's just one, and that's the timeline. Like, that's kind of what it sounds like to me. That's a really interesting thought.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, sorry. It could be also that we're just getting more sensitive and aware of multiple aspects of reality. That maybe what's happening is that this thing we call the Mandela effect is actually normal, natural, organic, and that we're just becoming aware of it. It's just entering into our awareness of reality, which is why we have such a hard time making sense of it, because bless our human brains, it can't, we only get what we can manage to integrate at any given time. And so, perhaps one day we'll all wake up and just sort of go, oh, right, that's what it is. As we progress
that kind
further.
of understanding, right?
That would be a bit of an event in its own right, wouldn't it? So all of a sudden one day we're like, oh, okay.
Well, I think that is happening, though. I think that, as individuals and also as a collective, reality is changing for us because we're able to comprehend a broader aspect of reality. It's just like the radio bandwidth. We're getting more and more bandwidth as we move through whatever this process is that we're experiencing that we call ascension or remembering and evolving, or, maybe it literally is just a solar sneeze, and this is just what evolution is. But there's a part of me that thinks perhaps we're not meant to know before we're meant to know. And that maybe part of the process is going through being human and sort of figuring it out, and also allowing ourselves to just get the information, receive it, and integrate it when it's appropriate. You know, it's like sort of like you have been prepared your whole life, Derrick, for what happened to you a year ago, but it couldn't have happened before a year ago because that was the appropriate time. You couldn't have received what you've received from it had it happened earlier, potentially.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's all just happening.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would not have been able to handle it on a maturity level, on a level of the whole spectrum. Yeah, I would not have been able to, just because of what's all popped up and stuff from this, I would not have been able to handle it. Not only the experience and the contact, but the government intervention, the backlash of the isolation from people, the the beating myself up in my own head over not being better at, A, B, and C, and knowing that this group can come in there. So
yeah, because your family would not want to contact you until you could handle it, because they care. They care about, I'm sure that there was an it's sort of like, I have these ideas about how we make plans before we incarnate and get mind wiped. And it's sort of like, you sat down with the group of them and you said, okay, at this time, here's how it's going to go down, and I'll be ready by then. And then we'll go forward. I mean, what an exciting time to be alive, you guys. Can we just acknowledge?
Yes.
Definitely.
Oh man, yes. I am. Even though this 3D sucks, I am having so much fun.
I'll tell you, I like bouncing. I like bouncing from 3 to 5D, and I'm pretty excited to stay in 5D more, increasingly more often as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
I've absolutely.
How you were talking about? Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, you know how you're talking about, like, the information doesn't, show itself until it's already presented. I really think each and every single one of us have all that information hardwired into us. It's just that this types of information, it deals with senses that aren't what we would call the normal five senses. It goes into extrasensory type of stuff. And the human body is completely and totally capable of increasing its range of frequency through intention and practice. And so you can actually start to broaden that scope out, that radio transceiver that we were talking about. But when you start getting to the point to where you can interact with multiple frequencies and multiple stations that aren't just what we consider, normal, then you have skills that start to develop with it, because you have to be able to interact with those frequencies on a higher level like that. And I think that's where that information actually starts to come in, because then it just clicks into place. There's room for it now, and so the further you tune out the station, and make the transceiver a broader base, I think the more information that can just, naturally click in, because this is what each of us has, ingrained in our DNA. This is the blueprint of humanity right here. It's just that we've all been turned way, way down. So instead of experiencing the, 150 billion channels that are out there, we've been stuck on like 2 or 3. So I think this is kind of what's going on right here. And, we are really the precursors for this whole thing, because, like we had the original plan was for all of this to start happening in the early 60s and 70s, with like the Summer of Love, and that all that stuff was hijacked. And it was literally turned back, and then we've just had literally a hellish time ever since then. But it's time, It's gotten to the point where this is going to happen, and you can't push it off anymore. And so they kind of showed the way a little bit back then, but then they all completely and totally fell off, and it's like a lost generation right now. It's all these people who came in here to incarnate, to do something amazing, who just kind of got pushed down, And so, like, we're having to step up where they started, and it's even harder because now there's, like, systems of control that are used specifically for when they knew this was going to be coming back. And so, I mean, just for people like you to stand up and say, hey, this is what I'm experiencing, this is what's going on right here, and this is what I'm feeling, and this is personally what it is doing for me. And so it's not just, you know, pretty lights in the sky and really cool pictures. It's like an actual transformation internally as you journey along this path. And it's just really, really cool to watch because, I mean, this is literally we're going to start seeing this so much more. You know, it's like you're the person who, you know, kind of like took the shovel and like broke a little tiny hole at the top of the levee, and all it's doing now is eroding more and more and more. And like, you know, it's just really cool to see this all go down and like to know you as a person, because you're definitely one of my favorite people. Like, Derrick Faust is a awesome guy. And like, you know, to actually have like to see all of this happen to a friend of mine, it's just really, it's cool. It's really cool because we came here to do something, and, you know, we're starting to see stuff like this, like, actually popping up in real time. And this is stuff that you can't dismiss. I mean, the cognitive dissonance, you can have all you want, but when you study the evidence, there's no way to get around it. You know, this is actually happening here, and we live in very interesting times. And can we just not step aside for a little bit and be grateful with how awesome this is? Like,
I know. I mean,
this is serious. You know, we've got some of the best front row seats in the whole entire universe right now, and boy, it's going to be a heck of a ride.
It's just going to happen the way that it needs to happen. I think that we're already prepared. We already, on some level, know what it is that we're here to do, and we walk through every day doing that, whether we even necessarily consciously recognize it or not. And as you know, as you were telling that your Sasquatch story, Derrick, I was thinking about all of the stories that I've read from indigenous people, indigenous stories, cultures, who have always had contact with Sasquatch. And I think that in some situations, maybe they choose who gets to see them, and that you know, I think it's probably really natural for us to have contact with the interdimensional beings that are native to our planet, and that you know, your experience is just sort of an example of things coming back into balance, perhaps.
Yeah,
you're certainly a lighthouse.
Yes, I've heard that. I am an anchor for frequencies for something I forget. One of the psychics who I called in worded it really cool, and I wish I could remember it right now. But part of one of the little aspects that I've been playing around with that got opened up from Corey Good, listening to what he had to say at the Secret Space Program conference he spoke at, was that he said that there are groups of beings out there that will and have been having one of their representatives from the group or their people or whatever incarnate to be a human and to figure it out and to play the game or whatever, and then once they're done, they go back to their people or whoever and explain the lessons they learned or whatever. And I absolutely feel like everybody is on some type of level like that, but that my story is that, you know, I incarnated from this group. I was the one who chose to come down here and go through all of this stuff in an earthly fashion. I think all of us kind of have that with us.
Resonates, for sure. Well, Derrick, I hope that you will come back and maybe be, you know, if you're open to it, come back and visit us from time to time here on Golden Frequency Radio and keep us updated on your story.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
good stuff.
Really fascinating. Yeah. So we've got just a couple of more minutes before we before our show ends, just about 5 minutes, if there's anything that you've, that is important for you to say to the listening audience, or anything that you'd like to touch on before we close out here.
Sure. I guess this a message would be that anybody can have these kinds of experiences. I'm not a whistleblower. I'm not an insider. I'm not psychic. I don't have past life recall. I'm not like special in any of those type of areas, but just because I'm not, I can still have these experiences. And just because people out there don't consider themselves special, like, you are special. Somebody out there is watching you, watching out after you. You maybe see it, you maybe don't see it, but this stuff is going to happen for everybody. And it's people like, like you, Beth, like you, Eric, in your different fields that you guys are comfortable with in sharing with people, like those type of contributions to humanity, really, because this isn't just like a group of us. We're friends, and we're just helping each other out. Like, this is for the whole of humanity, and I think that we're playing out our missions, and everyone's going to be a part of it. So, expose yourself now. Full disclosure.
Full disclosure, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, agreed. Full disclosure, please. I feel it coming, you guys. I mean, Eric knows that I'm primarily intuitive. That's where I get most of my information, is sort of from within. And
sure.
I mean, it's almost, the intensity is becoming nearly unbearable with,
yeah.
I don't know how else to really describe it. It's hard to articulate energy, but
it's like a massive boulder perched on the top of a mountain, like precariously balanced, and it's ready to like go rolling over.
Right. Some of the pebbles that are holding it up are falling off the cliff right now.
Yeah, it's all starting to erode out of the way. You can see it just tipping a little bit more, and it's almost there.
Like that.
It's almost there.
Like those road runners.
We might not be able to see the movement, but it's happening.
Mm.
Yeah.
I can feel it.
You can definitely see it. You can feel it. You can see it. Like never before in the history of the United States has there been such a crazy situation as what we've got going on right now. Like, I mean, we're literally watching the political system like implode on itself right now. I mean, it's seriously undoing. On Deutsche Bank's about to go under. I mean, like, all kinds of craziness is happening right now, and it's perfectly in line with the energy. Like, I mean, just the build-up and the precipice type feeling. Like, I mean, it's like everybody's on the edge of their seat with bated breath, and like we're just waiting for it right now. Like, I mean, it's I can't wait. Let's do this.
I do not see how there's going to be a slow 50 to 100 year rollout. I don't.
Oh, never.
I don't see
never.
that.
No, once
no
this
way
information comes out, there's going to be way too many questions. You're not going to be able to hide it.
Right? And who is going to hold the cabal or all these other evil entities at bay for those 50 or 100 years?
Yeah,
like, and why is that? And they're going to find some way to snake their way back in with their advanced tech in that 50 or 100 years. And if they're not advancing in their tech and they're being held at bay, who is holding them at bay, and why are they not releasing all of this info? The 50, 100-year rollout does not make sense to me.
I think we should have another show and talk about it, because we could talk for another 90 minutes about just that, I think.
Oh, easy.
Yeah, definitely. Oh,
yeah.
We've got more than enough for another 90-minute show just on that subject alone. I mean, even on just like the last month alone, we could fill 90 minutes. It's really starting to move good.
Oh, really how real world stuff is correlating to all this stuff that we've been reading about for a while now.
Yeah,
show up in the real
world.
world.
It's hitting street level. Finally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Derrick, once again, thank you so much. And we'll see you soon.
Yes.
Yeah,
Sounds
thanks
good.
for coming
Thank you,
on,
guys.
Derrick. Really appreciate it. Had a great time.